Friends, here he is. His suit arrived at returned in time. Oh, and whatever happens, Hedget's no regard to late-night monarch Johnny Carson television for 30 years, pleasant millions by his wit and ease style. Behind the curtain, not everyone guessed made him happy. Some fought with his timing, some bruised his trust, and some misunderstanding scowled never forgive. Come along as we discover the 7 Golden Age stars Johnny Carson branded evil. Bob Johnny, give millions hope. Bob Hope and Carson resembled two master comedians sharing stage with kindness and respect. Always lovely when Bob Hope visits point one of his latest trips to Elastopovers because we normally get him on the show. Hope, with his keen timing and experience, Hollywood celebrity was one of the biggest stars of his time. Carson, late night king, has a natural talent helping guests shine. When they sitting on the Tonight Show, resembled comic history, watching two legends side by side. Both men seemed to comprehend each other perfectly. Off camera, every different. Carson silently grew weary of Hope. As seen by the audience light-hearted banter, Carson felt oppressive routine. In public, Hope was guaranteed crowd pleaser. His name might draw viewers alone. Whenever Hope emerged, ratings rose, and NBC treated him royally. For viewers at Carson seemed to like home every second. He laughed at Hope's punchlines, good questions, and lightened the mood. But privately, Carson was often cranky. He valued fast thinking, natural speech. Improvisation was his forte. Unexpected events, the unexpected became gold. Hope, however, treated every appearance similar to a script. Carson had to play along, smiling on camera, secretly fuming. It made things worse. Hope insisted on managing every detail. Unlike most guests who may bring notes or ideas, Hope sent producers entire scripts weeks ahead. These weren't suggestions. They were sequential guides for Carson's curious but written Hope punchline deliver. Carson's spontaneity constructed his show on was gone. He wasn't no more hosting. He read lines so Hope his jokes land. Carson felt confined. Instead of listening, replying, and leading the conversation, he became a setup man. Whenever he tried to steer, naturalize the interview, Hope would disregard it and return to cue cards. For Carson, this removed Liv from the show. Believed in new, genuine interaction, but with everything was mechanical. Hope. It was less talk, more action, unchanging rehearsal. There was something about Hope's appearance really irked Carson, his refusal to deviate from cue cards. Carson tried repeatedly to break the pattern and interact naturally with Hope, yet Hope remained firm. He would persist that whatever awkwardness his script caused sensation of fluidity. The result was flat television. Still laughing, the audience seed Hope's sleekness, but Carson realized it was fake. The laughter not chemistry-based. It comes from repetition. Carson got resentful. In private, he joked that he was Hope's warm-up performance for Texaco. A cutting jab at corporate sponsorships often followed Hope's acts. To Carson, felt like the show wasn't his anymore. Hope switched on become Hope's previous routine's platform, practiced and branded. This got to the core of Carson intended late night to be surprising, humorous, vital. With his frustrations, Carson couldn't remove Hope from the Tonight Show. Hope's fame was too much. Audiences loved and appreciated him, that important for ratings in Hollywood. Producers knew a hopeful appearance would draw viewers, something NBC valued. So Carson endured. He smiled stage, laughed when needed, and partnered a legend. Behind the scenes, he disliked every minute. What made it harder was Carson believed Hope symbolized a period wanted to leave. Hope's style, safe, scripted, sponsor-driven, was older entertainment. Carson built something new. He redefined late-night comedy with timing, improvisation, smart, and witty. Hope's rigidity clashed with that vision. All appearances were a style of the past Carson thought wasn't funny dated for current TV. Bob Hope was famous for comedy, Buta guest on Johnny Carson, converted spontaneity into script. And Carson could never do that. Forgive. If Hope troubled Carson, patient, the next story shows how betrayal could hurt more. Joan Rivers. Johnny Carson hardly trusted persons totally. He was stage-friendly, nice and easygoing with guests laugh with. But off camera, he kept a smaller circle. Few came close enough to gain his trust. Then back in Long Island from 8th, Westbury Music Theater through the 14th. Please welcome Miss Joan Rivers. Joan Rivers was unusual. Exceptions. She was an ordinary guest. He chose her as his protege. He personally believed in and supported when few women had real opportunities in late-night TV. That trust would cause their downfall. One of the most difficult chapters long Carson career. In the beginning, Joan Rivers was a daring comedian for years. The rapid delivery and sharpness. She was hilarious, fearless, and unique. Safe actions ruled the moment. Carson recognized something wonderful in her when she appeared on The Tonight Show. The crowd reacted fast. She was a guest who did some laughing. She's someone who could carry the room, and Carson knew. Over time, links strengthened. Carson gave she had exclusive opportunities. The most important was naming her permanent Tonight guest host show. The sign was huge. Trust. That meant whenever Carson was away, Rivers filled his seat, speaking to America like the show was hers. Not another comedian at the moment, especially no woman, was given that kind of late-night power. It wasn't simply professional respect. It was Carson indicating he considered her likely successor, who could one day take charge. Their chemistry enhanced it. More natural. Rivers and Carson had an audiences liked her camera presence. She matching his tempo, pushed back when shins to fit the beat. Often effortless show. Viewers saw her as more than guest. She was family. Tonight with Carson, which is why transpired in 1986 devastated Carson. Without warning, Joan Rivers signed arrangement with Fox to debut her late-night time show. Not just any show. It was scheduled against The Tonight Show put her in charge. Competition with the man who had helped her for years. But the transaction wasn't the only issue. The Carson discovered a deeper wound Rivers never told. Carson didn't understand a call, letter, or whispered word-off explanation. Instead, he heard about through rumors and publicity. Foreman who trusted and kept this narrow circle seemed like utter betrayal. He gave her extra. Not just chance. He gave her trust and respect. Seeing her create such a backdoor professional move left him enraged and hurt. Fallout was immediate and final. Carson never spoke to Rivers again. Producers named her banned on booking sheets marked for her to never return to The Tonight Show. For someone with once considered a member Carson's late-night family break total. She was no longer his trusted protege to be fully removed from his career. After years, Rivers revealed she regretted not calling Carson beforehand news spread. She wishes she had simply told him. She understood while it must have ached by then it was too late. Carson wasn't nice human to reopen wounds. Once his trust was destroyed, he rarely gave back. Here, he never did. This was distinct from others. Disagreements seemed personal. This was no ordinary celebrity upset Carson or fought him style. He trusted this person, years of promotion and assistance. The treachery hurt since it wasn't purely business. For Carson, it about loyalty. He trusted Rivers. He demanded honesty in return. Respect. When she joined Fox without speaking to him, it said he realized loyalty wasn't as important to her as it did him. Joan Rivers, May student who proved herself talent. But Johnny Carson saw her as the reminder that even close bonds could snap suddenly. And if Rivers scarred his heart, conflict is shown in the next story that could shake him more dangerously way. Wayne Newton. Built by Johnny Carson, much of his Tonight Show appeal making fun of stars. Not his gags. Generally nasty but biting. His audiences like that. He could make a clever famous person comment on their appearance or lifestyle and grab a loud chuckle without looking mean-spirited. That balance held sharp speeches from Carson. Dynamic interviews. The majority of stars laughed, even when the humor was directed at them expense. Part of the transaction. You sit on Carson's stage. You took you like the teasing. It brought. Not everyone laughed. One visitor made it obvious he wasn't entertained by Carson. That guest was popular vocalist Wayne Newton. His extensive career in Las Vegas. Carson's humor worked best when he mocked public figures. He mocked politicians for speeches, actors regarding their roles, and musicians for stage personas. Jokes were brief, typically overstated, but they stinged out with viewers who recognized reference. Newton became Athos regular goals. Newton's flash style, elegance, and display manners were easy to write. Carson-style humor. Audiences smiled when Carson joked about Newton's looks or stage presence. Personality. Comedy fit the situation. Moment, yet it clashed with Newton himself. Not like many stars who brushed aside the jokes, Newton personally. Carson made fun of him. Appearance and suggested his excessiveness repeatedly on air. Newton, who worked hard to keep his image, asked smooth Vegas headliner like being the punchline. What Carson considered comedy procedure, Newton saw as direct insult. Jokes weren't funny to him, harmless, cutting into the way audiences saw him. And in the entertainment industry, image was everything. Tension increased until it reached boiling. One day, Newton had heard enough. In place of dismissing or griping silently, he charged in Carson's office. This was rude. Conversation. Newton confronted Carson, threatened immediately, and horrified everyone who heard. He told Carson, "Make me a joke again, and I'll demonstrate the punchline." Carson utilized Edto, calmly managing every interaction. The moment felt disturbing. This wasn't another guest arguing fun airplay. In real-life heated, personal confrontation, Carson appeared shaken. King of his calmness late at night under pressure, on the facing a major threat. After Newton's outburst changed everything. Behind the scenes, producers silent Lido prevent Carson from return to that location. They were avoided Newton jokes in future monologues and tread carefully when Newton appeared on the show. If he was booked, segments planned exceedingly cautious to prevent more conflict. Carson's incident left a mark. He made a career on playfulness humor. This reminded us that not everyone would laugh. It showed him. Not even celebrity and power protected him. Pushing back when a joke cut too deeply. He never forgot confrontation, and he never joked about Newton. Wayne Newton wasn't his longest feud, yet Carson was the guest who proved laughter could become a threat. The next tale shows how kindness may evolve into difficulties for late-night TV. Fred Rogers. Johnny Carson had many guests with energy, wit, and rapid discussion to Tonight Show. This rhythm was vital. Late-night TV. Viewers tuned in fast jokes, playful interviews, and thrilling moments unpredictable. When producers booked Mr. Rogers was Fred Rogers. From Mr. the renowned kids show Rogers' Neighborhood. Emmy host Fred Rogers' acclaimed children's show his years-long effort, named Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Carson anticipated something good. Warm. Rogers was admired worldwide. Country for his benevolence, and many considered his gentleness would create a refreshing time for viewers. What event was very different? Carson learned Rogers was universally admired. His style was nearly opposite of what late night needed. Fred Rogers established his career on calm, thoughtful TV that talked directly to few could reach children like this. He spoke softly and moved slowly. He always sent lovely messages. The man was a kind American role model. Carson, like many, admired him. For that. Booking Rogers looked reasonable. Safe decision. Chance to shine someone beloved by millions and to bring genuine program moment. Carson presumably thought Rogers would give the same warmth tonight show he gave viewers a thome. Instead, a fight occurred between two completely different types of entertainment. Late night TV enjoyed speed. Jokes needed to land. Fast. Interviews had to flow. Long breaks were limited. Silent contemplation. However, Rogers was no rush. He talked slowly, thoughtfully, and without the humor Carson's audience was used to. The result was embarrassing. On stage, Carson worked hard to maintain energy. Rogers' slow pace often caused awkward silences. Jokes failed. Land. The laughter subsided and crowd grew restless. What prompted Rogers so effective with kids? His tolerance, gentle delivery drained the energy from a fast rhythm show, smart and witty. Home viewers may have found Rogers nice, but in studio mismatch was clear. Carson knew the producers knew, and even the pressure was on backstage staff. After first few Roger appearances, it became evident a change was needed. The producers shortened his parts to reduce pacing drag. Instead of offering Rogers equivalent funds, time as other visitors, they cut him down and shortened interviews. They started booking Rogers strategically. His gentle presence functioned best over holidays when audiences accepted soft, emotional moments. By restricting him mainly December appearances, a producer could frame his presence as occasion rather than usual booking. This restricted damage to minimize show flow while honoring his standing. Carson never mocked Rogers or mistreated him. He knew Rogers was an okay guest. Personality. Polite, nice, and genuine. The issue was only about rhythm and fun. Carson maintained Rogers' limited access timetable, but he accepted their styles would never match. Rogers wasn't a dynamic guest. Laughs, moves rapidly, or maintains lively audience. He emphasized that the Tonight Show worked because vigor, rhythm, and timing. If all of those elements were missing, expertise suffered. Fred Rogers was never disliked by Carson, but became the silent demonstration of how even compassion could upset late-night delicate balance. The next tale concerns a Hollywood legend who did the same, but louder. Charlton H. Charlton H. was a famous actor of his time. Known for commanding appearances in Ben-Hur, he carried the Ten Commandments himself with authority. Hollywood powerhouse. His voice was deep. He always delivered dramatically. Appeared ready to perform. On screen, that style worked well. Johnny Carson's late-night show audience became a concern. Done more than talk. He delivered lengthy talks that drained a night show vibe. For hosts like Carson, who liked fast exchanges and humor, turned what should have been an engaging segment lecture. Carson honored H's career. He famous actor, a generation was marked by performances films. His presence on the show meant prestige. But once the cameras rolled, we quickly realized H wasn't suitable for late-night formats. Instead participating in Carson's inquiries engaged in fun conversation, H slipped into mental monologues. He chatted philosophy, theater history, or underlying meaning of his roles as like a school speaker, serious, hefty, and out of place, comply with audience expectations. Instead of guests sharing amusing stories with wit, H acted like a lecturer on stage. For Carson, this was stressful. Histo keep the crowd laughing, entertained, and engaged. With H, the conversation was dominated by little area. For Carson's jokes, improvised humor. Whole planned moments was omitted due to H's lengthy responses took up time. The audience, too, got restless. Visitors arrived. Tonight, show for laughs, not for Shakespeare or Greek lectures philosophy. Serious H made the show seeming slower, and the typical buzz studio excitement would subside. Carson, an expert reader, audience sensed it instantly. The H lost vigor as he spoke. That was one of the worst that might happen live on TV. Carson remained calm on camera, smiled and nodded, but privately was fed up. Late-night format well-timed, and H's propensity of overrunning segments threw everything out of balance. Carson wasn't inclined to confront visitors publicly, but he needed a means to keep the display movement. One of his best idea solutions followed a particularly long H appearance. To restore vigor, Carson booked instantly. The next segment features Don Rickles. Loud and unpredictable Rickles was the ideal remedy. His braggart humor energized the audience after H emptied the stage. Carson also took prevent the same issue in the future. He instructed producers to adhere H segment times limit, made notes in advance to continue conversation tighter, and personnel were told cut him off faster if he started sliding into lecturing mode. These modifications highlighted Carson's seriousness. His show flowed. No matter how notable guest wasn't willing to let them damage pacing again. If Charlton H had gravity, he also caused headaches. And the Carson's next guest moved quickly. Or serious, but so wild he turned comedy into chaos. Don Rickles. Don Rickles was a popular, the most surprising guest to sit across Johnny Carson. Called the Venom Trader, Rickles developed his rapid-fire insult humor to anybody nearby. Audiences loved it. No one was safe. Carson, the band, the studio audience, even network executives may join him in seconds. He was amusing, but he was uncontrollable. Rickles was total comedy chaos. He appears guaranteed loud laughs, but disturbed Carson's careful rhythms. How most guests following Carson, Rickles steamrolled through each part. He ignored questions, ignored cues, and took the discussion going haywire. Carson was unprepared. The audience television yelled with laughter. Critics lauded the outrageous, unpredictable, yet behind the scenes Carson struggled. Carson's style was sharp but steady. He enjoyed the flow. Discourse, the rise and fall off jokes, and timing satisfaction, everything perfect. Rickles ruined that equilibrium. He was too fast and loud. Too careless. Made fantastic. Carson was irritated by TV. One famous example was when Rickles guest hosted Carson Les Tonight Show. During he broke Carson's trophy on air. Desk box, a little item Johnny uses, often kept on set. Instead of apologizing, Rickles transformed disaster into comedy performance, mocking Carson while the audience laughed madly. When Carson returned to find the damaged box, he entered Rickles' set halfway through another show, challenged him. Television showed it. Comic gold. Carson pretended furious. Rickles deflected more insults, and his moment became one of the most replayed clips from that time. In private, Carson wasn't amused. Had it not like his possessions being used as Rickles' props, it simply confirmed his belief that Rickles had no limits. Carson was a master of concealing emotions on camera. Rickles unleashed storm-off insults. Carson laughed and rolled, played the good guy in his ice sport. The audience observed two pals trading blows and chemistry funniest moments in television. Privately, Carson was often irritated. He felt overshadowed. His presentation, reduced to a butt while the spotlight, Rickles' quips moved away. Carson wasn't insecure, having presented the show for decades of unequaled achievement, but had treated with respect. To him, Rickles crossed line by breaking rules, stealing focus, and not following the rhythm of the program. It entertained, Carson paid for it. To Carson, stay in control confined Rickles to one appearance a year. He joked with personnel, one storm at a time. Rickles is a hurricane. Time. He admitted that though Rickles was funny, show couldn't handle him often. Stormy Don Rickles Carson battled with. But our next guest wasn't natural. He rising star whose arrogance nearly ended his late-night career early began. Chevy Chase. In the mid-1970s, new humor was changing. Television. Saturday Night Live was new, daring, and youth-oriented audience. In the middle was Chevy Chase, an early breakout show stars. His sardonic humor, physical jokes, and incisive delivery him a comedy superstar. Chevy Chase was now a residence. Saturday Night Live gave it name. His weekend update with his physical pratfalls made him the face of the show early on. He was confident after his victory, booked on Carson's show. He carried himself like an established star arrived. The Carson stage symbolized respect and entertainment. Comedians wanted invitations that sit opposite him since that meant they arrived. For someone similar, Chase had a chance to shine that might compete with the most famous worldwide late-night host. But instead of seizing the opportunity bond with Carson, he acted stage to perform on Carson. From the start, Chase made unsettling decisions Carson incorrectly. Instead of playing guesting, he mocked Carson directly. He inflated Johnny's characteristics, interrupted him midway question, and copied Carson's golf swing before live audience. Nervously, the crowd chuckled that it was funny but odd. Carson wasn't docile. Rattled, but differently. Though The Tonight Show was his turf, and decades, he ruled with grace. Chase's behavior didn't seem like lively chatter. They felt disrespect. He wasn't doing anything. Conversation. His audition was for makes fun of Carson. The interruptions showed Chase not interested in natural back and forth that defined a good interview, that he wanted to shine. And then he crossed a line. For Carson, who put respect first, it an unavoidable time. Carson rarely confronted arrogance directly on camera, but behind he expressed himself in scenes. Following Chase's presentation, personnel observed immediate changes. For future, Chase no longer appeared in booking's prestigious first part slot, usually for the top stars. Carson demoted him to second part, subtle but telling, showing disdain. Carson also implemented new rules for Chase. No chair spinning during interview. No Carson impersonations, no direct jokes were made Johnny's cost. These constraints were exceptional but reflected Carson angst. While he could handle guest turmoil like Don Rickles would not accept arrogance. Open ridicule ensued. Chase not totally healed from that early misstep with Carson. During his career in cinema, Insiders TV insiders knew Carson had silently marked him as a failed guest at the respect test. It wasn't about envy or rivalry. This was about boundaries. Carson anticipated guests bring laughter without breaking down the foundation he worked hard to build. Enjoyed this video? Sure to like this video, subscribe channel, and press the bell icon avoid missing the next.